Mohamed Salah facing a huge decision over his Liverpool future, with the Saudi Pro League side Al Ittihad determined to sign him. Manchester City have a £47 million bid for Matheus Nunes rejected by Wolves. But the reigning Premier League and European champions have completed the signing of the winger Jeremy Doku. And Manchester United have rejected a world record bid for their England goalkeeper, Mary Earps. Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. So much to fit in this evening. Now, the financial strength of the Saudi Pro League has already reshaped the footballing landscape. But could they really prize one of European football's best away from the Premier League? They might. To discuss it all, Dharmesh chef Michael Bridge and European football expert Andy Brassel. Evening all. Also on the way, Chelsea have announced they've signed David Washington. Will he go straight into Maurizio Pochettino's first team plans, or is he one for the future? Got to start with Mo Salah, though. Could it be possible, Dharmesh, that Liverpool's best, one of the best ever in the Premier League, could be on his way to Saudi?
Al Ittihad will certainly hope so. Whether they'll be able to get a deal over the line will depend on Liverpool, and it's looking quite unlikely that it would happen. But the Saudi Pro League club are pushing and not giving up on signing Mohamed Salah. They made attempts to sign him, you remember, earlier on in this transfer window. Those attempts were rebuffed. He signed a new contract at Anfield last summer, a 3-year contract to take him up until 2025. So he's got 2 years left on his current deal. But as we know, by definition, if a player is under contract, the final decision is going to rest with the club itself. But one source has told me, this, I should reiterate, this is just one source, that Salah would actually like to listen what would be on offer from Al Ittihad. And if you read between the lines and look at what's been happening with the Saudi Pro League during this summer's transfer window, what would be on offer would likely be whatever he earns in a week, he'd be able to get every single day, more likely than not. Such would be the pull of Mohamed Salah. But as far as we're aware, Liverpool have not actually received any offers from Al Ittihad or any other Saudi Pro League club. They would reject any offers, we are told, for Mohamed Salah, and their position is simple, that the player is not for sale. And as I said, it would be down to the club. What could change that? Well, depending on if and when Al Ittihad went in with a bid, depending on how big that bid was, and the Liverpool owners, if it were to turn their heads, and if Mohamed Salah then agitated Liverpool to move. Those two things would have to come together for Liverpool to even consider selling Mohamed Salah. With regard to Al Ittihad, look at the players that they've got on their books already. They've got the likes of Kylian Benzema. They've got the former Celtic winger, Jota, on there as well. And Jota's an interesting one because there are reports emanating from Saudi Arabia that after weeks of him being at the club, they're willing to let him go. They signed him for £25 million. And I just wonder whether that is part of the push to try and sign Mohamed Salah, Jota out and maybe Salah in. But as I said, it is going to depend on Liverpool. It's looking unlikely, but Al Ittihad do want him.
Andy, they adore Salah in Liverpool. They absolutely are beyond words in the Arab world. Can you see it happening?
Not now. We were talking about this before, weren't we, Michael? It's not impossible to see at some stage in the future. I think the timing's poor. It's not ideal for Liverpool. And conversely, it's probably not actually ideal for Al Ittihad as well, because they've got this situation at the moment with Karim Benzema, where he's kind of at loggerheads with Nuno Espirito Santo, of course, the former Wolves coach who's in charge there. Benzema's not Nuno's ideal signing, which may seem really weird because, you know, there's somebody who's won the Ballon d'Or in the recent past. He's finding it hard to fit him in the team. Benzema's asked him, can I be the team captain? And Nuno has said quite bluntly, no, you can't. So they're in a weird situation. They're in a weird situation with Jota. Now, of course, this is going to run for a little bit more because we're talking about the transfer deadline ticking down and we'll be here in 8 days' time seeing it over the line. But For the Saudi Pro League, it goes forward to September 20th. So this chat that we're having now, we're not talking about an 8-day run. This is going to keep going. Now, of course, it makes it far more difficult for Liverpool to sanction a deal, even if Salah really wants it, once it gets past the stage where they can replace him. I mean, even at this stage, it's surely impossible to replace him with anyone of near equivalent value.
But they've got loads of players up front. Of all Premier League clubs, Liverpool have got more cover there than anyone else, haven't they?
But someone like Salah, someone who's a figurehead, someone with that star quality, I don't think so. I mean, the thing is, Liverpool are never going to go and buy an Mbappé, really, to replace him. That's just not really how their financial model works. They would probably buy the next Mo Salah, and then, you know, they're players who they've already signed, like Darwin. You expect him to go from strength to strength over the next year or two. Jota will keep on keeping on, etc., etc., etc. You get more out of Cody Gakpo. But I think now it's a bad look if they get rid of him, and it stretches them in a depth perspective. And already the Saudi Pro League has absolutely played havoc with Liverpool's preparations for this new season.
Has Jurgen Klopp got a crystal ball?
Well, I mean, we were talking about it a month ago, and as Andy said, their window closes on September the 7th. Now, there'll be a lot of clubs, many clubs, who still might not have sold the players they want to sell after deadline day. We talk about all the people they want to sell, the likes of Tottenham, the likes of Arsenal. This is one player Liverpool do not want to sell. Of course, Jordan Henderson's gone there, Fabinho's gone there, but Jurgen Klopp did raise these concerns, and he raised them on Liverpool's pre-season tour a few weeks ago. Have a listen to this.
Pretty much the worst thing is that the transfer window in Saudi Arabia is 3 weeks longer open, if I'm right. I heard something like that, than at least in Europe. That's not helpful. So there must be, UEFA, FIFA must find solutions for that. But in the end, I don't know in this moment what exactly will happen. It is already influential for us, for sure. But we will have to learn to deal with it, and that's what we do.
Andy, still a bit of debate whether it's 3 weeks after the close of our window or a week. Either way, though, does the Premier League not just have to suck it up? There's another league that is strong now, and we just have to get used to the fact that some of our top players will be going there.
Yeah, I think so, particularly in the short term, Mike. And, you know, it's actually an advantage to an extent for Premier League clubs, because you look at what Chelsea have done, the steps that they've made towards meeting FFP regulations. That can't happen without Saudi Arabia. It's been an absolute godsend for Chelsea over the last little while. They've got the time to and the opportunity to get rid of undesirables and unpick some pretty expensive mistakes. Now, it's always been one of the most challenging issues for Premier League clubs. How do you get rid of players that you don't want anymore? Well, you really can't, unless they want to take a massive wage cut or you want to continue paying some of their wages. Now, the Saudi Pro League is the ultimate get-out for that. So much as when the Premier League signed not the last domestic TV deal, but the one before, the one that took it several steps ahead of most European leagues. You've got big clubs and medium-sized clubs in France and Germany having a bit of a panic and saying, how can we compete? All of a sudden, it's a different sport. Now, it's not quite like that for the Premier League, but they're getting a little bit of a murmuring of that. But what France and Germany and those clubs realised, they could use it to their advantage. You know, make your budget for the next season or for the next half season or whatever. Premier League clubs are going to find themselves in that bracket now, particularly in the short term, until things start to even out in the Saudi Pro League, which is in this incredible growth phase at the moment.
Dharmesh, before we leave Mo Salah, who's got the cards? The player or the club?
Club. It's under contract. He's got 2 years left on his contract.
You know, you always tell me 2 years is a dangerous time.
It is, but that's if Al Ittihad come in with a bid. What's got to happen is what I said before. Al Ittihad have got to come in with a bid, number one, that Liverpool suddenly think, can we refuse this bid? Because he's only got 2 years left on his contract. But that has to be coupled with Mohamed Salah saying, yes, I want to go and talk to them, because that would then imply that with 2 years left on his contract, if he wants to go and talk to another club, he's unlikely to want to sign another contract with Liverpool. And at 31 years of age, they don't want him entering or approaching the final year of his contract at Liverpool.
That's an issue for Liverpool, because I think when they got Salah to sign his last contract, they signed it with the expectation of it probably being his last big contract in football, or last major contract, the highest he's going to get. I don't think Liverpool are thinking about resale here. I don't know what offer that Al Ittihad could make that would make it worth Liverpool's while.
You genuinely don't think that they would want any money if he was to leave? They would be happy for him to see out his contract and leave for free?
Well, maybe. Or maybe they sell him for a reduced price with a year left. Because I think once it gets to the point where Salah's got a year left, they're thinking it's so hard when you've got such a beloved player as that and such a beloved team as Liverpool have had that battled Manchester City for years. It's hard to move on from that. They do have to move on from that at some point. I think it's similar probably to the Sadio Mane deal, where they sell him for some sort of moderate figure because he's got a year left on his contract, maybe around the 40, 50 million mark, which may seem ridiculous to a player of that sort of pedigree. But what the advantage is going to be is Liverpool will be in the next stage of their rebuilding, and the wages that will free up will be the big deal for them, I think.
Would you potentially look at it, though, as well and say, look, Liverpool, they're quite savvy. They'll think potentially if this doesn't happen now, this league's only going to get bigger. This is going to be one key player they are going to want next summer.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's a deal that could happen next summer. And if they have to take a little bit less for not having the inconvenience of losing him now, I think they'll live with that.
And they need to get back in the Champions League, don't they?
They do.
They're in the Europa League this year. How much of a blow would that be to lose such a figurehead?
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's talk about another player who the Saudi Pro League tried to get for shed loads of money, Kylian Mbappé. What's the latest on him, Michael?
Well, another twist to an extraordinary summer window involving Kylian Mbappé. Much now in contract talks with PSG, his current club. What do we know? We know that he's rejected a mega offer from Saudi Arabia. We also pretty much know that he wants to join Real Madrid at some stage. We know PSG are aware of this. What we also know is PSG are doing everything in their power to not let him leave on a free. To them, it's absolutely unthinkable. But he's been brought back into the squad. There's like an outcast PSG squad. I saw a photo a few weeks ago. Isn't it about 7 or 8 players not wanted?
The Lofters.
Yeah, but he was in the middle. It just didn't seem right. But that's history now, thankfully, for PSG. But what's interesting today, Mike, Andy and Diamond, is that Carlo Ancelotti has come out in a Real Madrid press conference and said, we are done this summer.
Done? But Andy is going to play for Real Madrid eventually, isn't he?
You would think so, but of course, 16 months ago, we were thinking he'd be playing for Real Madrid now, and he'd just have finished his first season there. So, you know, I think nothing's to be taken completely off the table. The thing is, when they let him back into the squad, there was no promises from his camp that he was going to sign a new contract or was even looking at signing a new contract. Now, there was talk maybe about a compromise with the next part of his loyalty bonus, that's right, loyalty bonus, yes. that is due on the 2nd of September when he's still at the club, as we presume he will be. But maybe he would be prepared to put that to one side or bite the bullet with that. But if he was to sign a new contract, as Michael said, it would protect PSG's investment and they would get some money back. But how would Real Madrid react to that? I mean, that's such a huge extra expense for them. Someone would have to pay for that. Would that someone be Kylian Mbappé?
It's absolutely just ridiculous. The whole situation is brilliant. Michael, let's talk WSL now. Mary Earps. Nike didn't sell her shirts, but my goodness, someone wants her. Tell us.
Absolutely. Manchester United have turned down a huge bid for England goalkeeper Mary Earps. The offer is believed to be a world record for a goalkeeper in the women's game. She played in all 7 matches, of course, at the World Cup. She saved a penalty in the final against Spain, awarded the Golden Glove as England finished runners-up. She won Best Goalkeeper in the FIFA Awards in February. She does have 1 year left on her United contract, but it's worth remembering a few years ago, she was considering her career after she failed to be selected for an England squad in September 2020. She said in an article that she sank to the kitchen floor in tears, resigned herself that her career was over, and now what a career she's got now. And for us to be talking about her like this is a testament to her. So full credit to her. And it's huge WSL story breaking here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a break. Now, when we come back, we're going to go around all 20 Premier League clubs. Yes, the Premier League wrap is back. We'll see you in a moment.
It's back. Time to go round the clubs, Damesh.
Certainly is, Michael. Monaco close to a verbal agreement with Arsenal for striker Folarin Balogun. Personal terms not expected to be a problem.
Aston Villa are interested in signing Arsenal defender Nuno Tavares. He's available on a permanent deal or a loan with a buy clause.
Bournemouth want to sign a winger and a striker before next Friday's deadline.
Brentford have bid $34 million for Fiorentina winger Nicolas Gonzalez. He's playing and starting against Rapid Vienna right now.
Brighton are after a midfielder. Their primary target is Lille's Carlos Baliba. They're also looking at Arsenal's Albert Sambi Lokonga.
Burnley are one of a number of clubs interested in signing Manchester United's young left-back Alvaro Fernandez.
Chelsea have signed David Washington from Santos on a 7-year deal. New England Revolution keeper Jordi Petrovic is expected to have a medical this week.
Crystal Palace remain in talks with Manchester United over a deal for Dean Henderson.
Everton in talks with Udinese over the transfer of Portuguese striker Beto.
Fulham are interested in signing Atalanta striker Duban Zapata. A proposed move for the Colombia striker to join Roma has broken down, and Fulham are now considering an approach.
Saudi Pro League side Al Ittihad haven't given up on signing Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah. Salah has got 2 years left on his contract, and Liverpool say he is not for sale.
Former Manchester United defender Axel Tuanzebe is training with Luton at the moment, and new signing Ross Barkley could make his debut against Chelsea tomorrow night.
Manchester City have bid £47 million for Wolves midfielder Mateus Nunes. Bid rejected. Winger Jeremy Doku has joined for £55 million from Rennes, and Aymeric Laporte has joined Al Nassr.
Manchester United target Sofran Amrabat has been left out of their Fiorentina squad for the Europa Conference League qualifier against Rapid Vienna.
Newcastle United have signed 18-year-old defender Cahill Haffernan following his departure from AC Milan.
Nottingham Forest remain in talks with Bologna over the signing of midfielder Nicolas Dominguez. The Argentinian international has entered the final year of his contract.
Sheffield United are close to signing Cameron Archer from Aston Villa for a fee in the region of £18 million.
Tottenham goalkeeper Hugo Lloris has trained with the first team today. He's not interested in a move to Lazio, and the club are now turning their attentions to other targets.
West Ham United are finalising details on a deal worth £38 million for Ajax midfielder Mohamed Kudus, who has just scored for Ajax tonight.
And Wolves do not want to sell Matthias Nunes. It would take a big offer for them to consider a sale. However, a big fee would allow them to reinvest in several positions, which they would otherwise be unlikely to do due to FFP constraints. The wrap is back.
Wow.
The wrap is back indeed. Andy, I want to pick up on Manchester City. The guys just mentioned Jeremy Doku. Should City fans be excited?
Very excited. I mean, they've been looking for a wide player, especially with the possibility of Foden playing in midfield and also Bernardo playing in central midfield more. So Doku was someone they've been interested in for a while. The potential has been clear for ages. Now, Rennes bought him 2 years ago for €26 million. They spent what was a lot of money for them and let Rafinha go at the time for 18 million to Leeds to create space for him, knowing that they were buying him to sell him, essentially. And, of course, this happens all the time. But, you know, it needed to be a big offer to make it worth their while. Now, he's had his ups and downs since he's been at Rennes. He started the season really well. He's had a great pre-season. We've seen him shine with the Belgian national team before. He's a natural dribbler, really explosive. And he's someone who, with Guardiola's coaching, you would just expect him to go to the next level.
So, Dame, City got him in the door, but they're struggling to bring in a midfielder, I gather?
Struggling. It's early days at the moment. I know it's late in the window, but early days with regard to this particular deal. We mentioned it in the Premier League wrap just then. And it looks like, as we mentioned yesterday, the Wolves midfielder Matheus Nunes is Manchester City's primary target in that midfield area. And they have made their move for the player. An opening bid worth £47 million has been rejected by Wolves. Talks are ongoing between the clubs and, possibly more significantly, talks going on behind the scenes at Manchester City about whether they're going to go back in with an improved offer and how much that improved offer would be. Now, any other club that you talk about, when they go in with an initial offer that's been rejected, immediately you would assume they're going to go back in with a better offer. This is not any other club, because Manchester City have got a bit of a history of just walking away from deals if it doesn't suit them. If £47 million is their limit and they don't want to go anymore, they will walk away. They've had a couple of occasions that Pep Guardiola pinpointed last week. Harry Maguire, when he went to Manchester United. City were in for him, walked away. Marc Cucurella from Brighton. City were in for him, walked away, he went to Chelsea. Alexis Sanchez, another one as well. They were the front runners for his signature. In the end, the personal terms didn't work for Manchester City. He ended up going to Manchester United. So they do want the player. They've shown they want the player. The bid is in. It's been rejected. Let's see if they go back in.
Andy, can they afford to walk away, though? They wanted Paquetá. He was their first choice. Didn't get him. They need bodies in the building. So can they walk away from Núñez?
Well, they can if they want, because Paquetá is a specific sort of player that they wanted for a long time, of course, going back to when he was at Lyon, and that they thought he would be cover for Bernardo if Bernardo went. Now, Núñez is a far different type of player, a really different type of midfield player, one who you would trust with the ball in front of your own penalty box, even if he's like a little less eye-catching than Paquetá. But, you know, we talked a minute ago about Doku and buying to sell. I always had the impression that Wolves were doing this. They knew this was a higher value player. I guess the question is, fellas, what is their premium? What do they consider an acceptable premium? Because it would give them opportunity to do stuff that, you know, Gary O'Neill knew when he was arriving that they wouldn't be able to do much in the transfer market. This could change that. And they've always known that Núñez would go at some point. In fact, I'm surprised that Liverpool haven't come back in for him.
But that was the talk, wasn't it? That was the talk at the start of last year, wasn't it? At Liverpool were going to be the option.
A preordained option. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I think some clubs, table clubs, and then the top six sides look at them and say, oh, how they get on? Oh, they've got on really well. We'll have him now. So it's interesting that City now want him.
There are time constraints on this, though, because you say what would Wolves accept as a premium? They need to have other deals like ready to go.
Yes, they do.
So late. And if this has come as a shock to them that someone is going to go hard in for Matheus Núñez, they might not have had a backup option or any kind of plan, because he started the season. He's played in both of their games, was terrific against Man United. Of course, he was sent off against Brighton, but they're planning with him. And
there's a big difference between thinking you have no money to spend to going to buy three players, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you think about if Manchester City go back in and say they pay big money for Matheus Núñez, Wolves then think, right, we've got lots of money, we can go back into the market. What happens, the later you go in the window, not only will selling clubs smell a bit of desperation from Wolves' part because they know they need to bring in somebody to replace Núñez, but they'll think, you've got a bit of money as well. So actually, we'll charge you £5-10 million more, something Wolves simply can't afford to do at the minute, given what's happened to them during this transfer window.
So, Michael, that's a player City may or may not get, but they've lost one today. Give us the details.
Yeah, and another player that Manchester City fans will hold close to their hearts, like Ilkay Gundogan and potentially like Riyad Mahrez. But yeah, today they said goodbye officially to Aymeric Laporte, who's completed his transfer to Al Nassr of Saudi Arabia. It's around £25 million. He won 13 major honours. I mean, it's been a phenomenal few years for him at Manchester City.
He played injured to get City over the line for the Premier League title as well.
Yeah, and in fact, Manchester City mentioned that in their goodbye piece about him online. So it's obviously meant a lot to them. I think the Premier League are losing a top-class defender, Andy.
For peanuts, do you think 25 million is a bit of a bargain?
You could argue that, but of course, again, I don't think it's massively about resale for Manchester City. I think that when you look at the wages they pay, there's such a small bracket of clubs that they can sell to. And I think, that's what Saudi Pro League clubs are banking on a lot of the time. You turn a player's head with a wage offer, and that, in turn, I think, helps drive the price down. And, of course, everyone knows that City have been shopping Laporte for a while now.
Do you think, are you surprised there weren't more Premier League clubs that came in for him? I mean, Tottenham want a defender. Aymeric Laporte's for sale.
But would he want to go there? I suppose you have to ask that. I mean, clearly the financial aspect has come into it, as well as being part of a...
Just broke Michael's heart with that. Would he want to go there?
Neutral.
I'm asking, I'm not telling.
No. I was actually thinking of Arsenal when we saw the injury to Julian Timber. But look, yeah, you're right, it's done.
Well, that's the question. Have they learnt their lesson from last year? Was the title tighter than it could have been because they sold Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko? Has that given them some sort of seller's remorse about selling players to other Premier League clubs?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk Chelsea then, Dharmesh. Done another deal today, yet another one.
You okay?
I've done nothing. I'm not saying anything.
Yes, surprise, surprise. Yeah, Chelsea have made another signing. It's the one we were expecting. They completed the signing of the Brazilian forward David Washington from Santos. He completed his medical yesterday. The deal is worth in total 20 million euros. We think Chelsea pay an initial 16 million euros plus 4 million euros in performance-related add-ons. Really short contract again for this guy. A 7-year contract, and just in case he needed anything extra, there's an option for a further 12 months in there too. Chelsea, though, will make a decision about the 18-year-old Washington, whether he'll be part of the first-team squad moving forward this season, or whether his development would be best served by going on loan to another club, maybe Strasbourg, who Chelsea have that association with, of course, and where he'll get more regular first-team football, or whether Mauricio Pochettino thinks, actually, you're ready. Even though he's 18, you're ready and you can play. So it'll be interesting to see what the decision they make there, Chelsea.
Dharmesh touched on it, Andy, these massively long contracts. What do you make of Chelsea's strategy?
A little risky, if I'm being honest. Of course, we know what they're trying to do, and it's a loophole that UEFA have moved to close. With the maximum of 5 years, you can spread an amortised fee over. But I tend to think that there's, say, even if 2 of these players don't work, say 2 or 3 of these players don't work out, and when you look at the amount of players that Chelsea have bought, that would be quite a high success rate to say if 2 or 3 of players that they're buying at huge fees don't work. Let's say, for example, that Mykhailo Mudryk doesn't work out, and the early signs have not been amazing. Let's be honest, he's struggled so far. It's maybe a little bit difficult to get your money back on them, or really difficult to get your money back on them. I suppose the plus would be, say for Mudryk, for example, for a €100 million player, he's on quite small wages for a player of that sort of value habitually would be. So in terms of shifting that contract, then fair enough, but they would be making a huge loss. And, you know, if those players are prepared to sit in on decent wages, I mean, they're going to end up paying for it down the line.
Yeah. Just a very quick one, Mike, just on Chelsea. The keeper, Jordi Petrovic, expected to have a Chelsea medical in the next 24 to 48 hours ahead of his move from New England Revolution. The deal is worth in the region of £14 million, including those famous performance-related add-ons. If I got £1 for every time I said performance-related add-ons in this window, that would be a performance-related add-on. Personal terms not expected to be a problem. And
£1 for that one. Oh, yeah.
I'm hearing that Kudus has got 2 this evening. He is on fire. He's in the shop window. Loads more to come after the break. We're going to talk Manchester United. We're going to talk Everton, West Ham and more. See you in a moment. Hello again, this is the Transfer Show. Absolutely bundles to pack in, so let's get straight to Manchester United. Darmesh, developments today in midfield.
Yeah, look, they want to be active in the remaining days of the window and potentially bring in a midfielder. We know the name that has been around for the entire transfer window. That's Fiorentina's Sofian Amrabat. There's talk of Bayern Munich's Ryan Gravenberch as well. But the primary one seems to be Amrabat. And interestingly, as Michael mentioned in the Premier League wrap earlier, he's been left out of the Fiorentina squad for tonight's Europa Conference League tie against Rapid Vienna amid speculation over his future. The Fiorentina CEO says he's not working with the squad at the moment, but we haven't received any formal offers. Now, that shouldn't come as a surprise with regard to Manchester United, because United in the background are just trying to work out whether they need to have a major departure in midfield or anywhere else in the squad to be able to fund a deal like this, or whether they can still do a deal without a major departure from this moment on. Fred has gone to Fenerbahce for a deal worth 15 million euros. There's talk of Donny van der Beek as well leaving the club. Will that be enough for Manchester United to go into the market and bring in someone like Sofian Amrabat? That is what United are exploring at the moment, and that is what Fiorentina and in particular Sofian Amrabat are waiting for. They're waiting for United.
Before I get to ask you about whether Amrabat is a right fit for United, Scott McTominay has had to sit and watch United overrun in midfield so far this season. Is the manager trying to ease him out so he can bring someone like Amrabat in?
Well, I think it's been clear that he's been available for a while now. I just wonder if out there are some people not convinced on Amrabat. I mean, there's no doubt about him in my mind in that he is a big game player. I think you look at his performances in the back end of the Conference League. In the Conference League final, despite the fact that West Ham won it, he's the best player on the pitch by a clear margin. He was absolutely fantastic at the World Cup. And then you look at his time with Fiorentina, and if he goes on to star at a big club, which in some ways I'm surprised hasn't happened already. He was close to going to Inter at some point. Spurs were interested when we go back a little bit. See, he did want to go there, Michael. And I think you look at the fact that he shows up for those big games.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about his ability. But when he arrived at Fiorentina, it takes him a while to get into the first team. And then, when he came back from the World Cup, there was a sense from the club that he wasn't fully invested. It took him a while to get back into the team before he finally did get back into the team and make a massive difference in the back end of that European campaign. And now you've got him available. What for, so many clubs could do with a player of that position, of that capability. He's available for a reasonable fee. And really, I think their feeling was around January that his head was turned by the Barcelona speculation. And, Barcelona have got a lot to answer for in the last couple of transfer markets, in that they unsettle players who they have no way of paying for.
Yeah.
And then, they just leave this mess behind them in the rear-view mirror. And that has been a big effect on what's happened to it.
Yeah, I don't know how they've got away with that, incidentally. Darmesh, I can't remember. Have I asked you about the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United?
No, not yet, but
Darmesh, what's the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United?
It's developing, because we think United are ready now to do a deal for a keeper. That's if Dean Henderson was to leave the club. Now, it now seems like we were mentioning yesterday, the primary target appears to be Fenerbahce's Altay Bayindir. And a deal would cost United in the region of around 5 million euros. And there have been developments in the past few hours. First of all, Fenerbahce have tweeted that the Croatian goalkeeper, Dominik Livakovic, he is in Istanbul, passed a medical, and is now discussing transfer terms over a proposed move from Dinamo Zagreb. Personal terms not expected to be a problem there. Bayindir, meanwhile, is on the bench for Fenerbahce right now for their Europa Conference League playoff against FC Twente. Now, there's some video circulating on social media pre-match showing Bayindir almost saying goodbye to the Fenerbahce fans. Is that a sign that the deal to United is happening? But it would require the deal for Henderson to Crystal Palace, who was continuing to push to sign Dean Henderson, happening as well. These two deals have to happen in unison. And I think United don't want to be left short at all. They don't want to be in a position where, yes, the degree of certainty that Bayindir will come and let Dean Henderson leave if Bayindir can't immediately go into the squad, because they don't want to be in a position where they're playing a Premier League game and the reserve to Andre Onana is the fourth choice goalkeeper at Manchester United. They don't want to be in that position. They want it to be Dean Henderson or Dean Henderson's replacement. But it looks like something could be moving on both of those deals very soon.
I mean, Altay's potentially in a spot there, isn't he, himself? Because he says he's waiting to go and he's waiting for something to happen with Dean Henderson. Well, the wording of that Livakovic statement, when a Turkish team says transfer negotiations, it means they're there and they've already signed.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting to bring him out with the shirt.
Yeah.
That's what it means. And they're preparing the statement for the stock exchange. So, you know, there's no going back for him. He needs that deal to happen now.
Yeah, United were also looking at another keeper, the Benfica goalkeeper, Odysseus Vlachodimos. But
which would be a much more expensive deal.
it would be, and it just seems the way the dominoes are falling just now, it looks like it would be India. But like I say, it is reliant and dependent on Henderson.
Michael, we were speaking about Amrabat, a Fiorentina player. Let's talk about another Fiorentina player, Nicolas Gonzalez, possibly going to Brentford. Is that a deal that could happen?
It sounds very unlikely. I mean, I've never known so much updates on the Europa Conference League qualifiers because he starts tonight. He's playing right now. But last night on Sky Italy, Fiorentina head coach Vincenzo Italiano, that's got to be one of the best names around, isn't it, Vincenzo Italiano?
Well, it's like being called Vinny English.
Yeah, so no.
Yeah, true. So that's a no. Brentford put in a 30. Brentford paid a £34 million bid yesterday, but Italiano said he's super motivated and he's definitely going to stay. So that's that.
OK. If they were to get him, how good is he?
Really good player who was close to going to Brighton before he joined Fiorentina. Great in the Bundesliga. He's been very good since he's gone to Fiorentina. They've given him the fabled number 10 shirt, so they want him to be the centre of it this season. Great skill. He would have fit Brighton fantastically. It seems from his side that Brentford is not really interesting to him. And bearing in mind that he could have gone elsewhere for more money when he joined Fiorentina, I think he sees his next step as being a little bit higher, if you like. And, you know, that's more what I sense his view is rather than my view of Brentford, I might add.
That's a good point, though. What about these historic clubs like Fiorentina? I mean, it's a historic name, historic kit, and their players cherry-picked by Brentford or clubs, sort of mid-table clubs in the Premier League. How does that go down in places like Italy?
Well, I think if you're Fiorentina, you just make as much money as possible. Ideally, they do not want to sell him. They want him to be the centre of the project going forward. And, you know, I think they've got a good chance of getting in European competition all over again this season. They've got a great coach in Italiano, and they've got some really good players. But on the other hand, from what I gather, they were quite shocked at the number that Brentford came in at. Now, they said no to Brentford at, 35 million euros, and they kind of thought that was the end of it. And then Brentford come in with another absolutely massive offer. And surely there is a point where it's so much money where they go to him, are you sure you don't fancy it? West London's lovely at this time of year? Whatever, because... But it's different. It's difficult for a club like Brentford because you may have that Premier League money, but are they established enough in the Premier League, internationalise, to make players think, OK, I could go there and achieve something, not just make the money?
Feels like the conversation we were having about the Saudi Pro League only a couple of parts ago. It's the same thing, isn't it? Dharmesh, let's talk West Ham. Kudus, a couple of goals already this evening. Is it going to happen?
It's interesting because he started. We weren't expecting him to start tonight against Ludogorets out in Bulgaria, but he did. And within 18 minutes, he scored twice. Ajax currently 3-0 up in that game. But we think that West Ham United are just putting in the finishing touches to a deal for Mohamed Kudus. A broad agreement in principle worth around £38 million, understood to be close. We think it's going to be £35.5 million initial payment, £2.5 million in performance-related add-ons, and the discussions are ongoing over the actual payment terms. There is work to do on the deal still, but I've been told there's a cautious optimism that they can get it over the line over this weekend. Personal terms, on a 5-year deal with a 1-year option. Again, not expected to be a problem. There was another Premier League club who we think came in late because there's been a lot of Premier League interest throughout this transfer window for Mohamed Kudus, but we think that he wants now to go to West Ham. There's also Saudi interest as well. And one source was telling us that it might just be 50-50 that this deal would happen. But the information that I'm beginning to get now is that Ajax wanted him to play to help Ajax get through effectively into the group stages of the Europa Conference League and then leave and then go to West Ham if West Ham can get this deal over the line. And, well, he's certainly doing that because they're as good as through and he scored twice.
Tell us about Youssef En-Nesyri.
Yeah, look, they remain in talks with Sevilla, West Ham, over the signing of the Morocco international, played at the World Cup in Qatar, of course. They're getting encouragement that the player wants to join, but West Ham, they're prepared to walk away from this deal and go on to other options if they can't agree a deal that's to their satisfaction. He's entered the final 2 years of his contract. If he doesn't sign a new deal, it might put Sevilla in a little bit of a pickle there.
Also, they're in a financial hole at the moment. I mean, they could really do with the money. There's no doubt about that. And if there's a better time to sell En-Nesyri, I'll be surprised. As Dharmesh was saying, with 2 years left on his contract, he's come off a really good World Cup, good end to the Europa League campaign. If you look at the numbers, he never scores quite as many goals as you would expect him to. But on the other hand, I would back him to change that in the Premier League because you look at the types of goals he scores. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch at all to say he's one of the best attacking headers of the ball in the world. You know, you look at the goals he scores. With the right wingers, he gets an absolute truckload for West Ham. There's no doubt about it.
OK. All right, let's take a break. We've got to go. When we come back, we'll have news from Arsenal, from Tottenham, and we'll get Andy's view on the latest striker target for Fulham. See you in a moment. As usual, we have got very little time left, so I'm going to get straight into it. Everton, Michael. Che Adams yesterday, you were telling me they're looking at another striker today. Tell us.
Yeah, Beto, his name is, and he currently plays for Udinese, Portuguese international, 21 goals in 61 appearances. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're looking elsewhere apart from Che Adams, though we did report yesterday that Southampton are determined to keep him, so that's one to keep an eye on.
Any good?
They're looking for a particular type of striker, a target man-y type of striker. And Beto's physical, he's strong. Decent signing, I would say.
Darmish, Arsenal. Couple of developments today.
Yeah, first of all, Real Sociedad remain in talks with Arsenal over a loan deal for the defender Kieran Tierney. It's understood that deal could come with an option to buy. And significantly, he hasn't featured in either of Arsenal's squads for their opening 2 Premier League games. And furthermore, he trained away from the first team squad this morning. Celtic also keeping an eye on Tierney's situation, but a possibility of returning to Celtic has been described to us as unlikely. While Arsenal are open to allowing Tierney to leave, because obviously they're in talks with Real Sociedad, if he doesn't go, he will still remain a valuable member of the squad. One other line to bring you from Arsenal, Folarin Balogun. We've got to have a daily Folarin Balogun update, don't we? Monaco close to a verbal agreement now on a fee for Folarin Balogun. They are then expected to make a formal offer for the striker ahead of discussing the structure of the deal and the payment terms as well. Arsenal so far have stood firm on a £50 million valuation. Personal terms, guess what? Not expected to be a problem.
I'm going to actually ban you from saying that, I think. They've gone for Nketiah over Balogun, it looks like, Arsenal. Is that a good move?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a sensible move from Arsenal because you look at the growth of the value of Balogun off a very, very good goal-scoring season in France. Although, funnily enough, I think his cachet is probably better from a distance than it is inside France because you have a lot of judges over there who not quite sure on his work outside the penalty box. An area in which Nketiah is really improved, by the way, and a lot of his goals were penalties. So there's the sense of, do we want to bet the farm? Inter would definitely put off by the sort of level that Arsenal were asking, despite the fact that the figures look great on paper. I think Arsenal are doing the right thing.
Quick word about Tottenham. Hugo Lloris back in the fold. What does that mean, Michael?
I don't know whether he definitely is or not. I mean, he was in first-team training today, Mike, because he's not going to Lazio, but he's got a very good relationship with the club. I don't think he's got a future with Ange Postecoglou, though. OK, do you know what? Before we go, I've got to just tell you that we've got a special edition of the Transfer Show tomorrow. It is an international version of the show. Gianluca Di Marzio from Sky Italy, Florian Plettenberg from Sky Germany, and look who's in the middle, Darmesh as well. We'll be here from 7 o'clock on Sky Sports News with an international version. I'm going to be on the show. Don't get my picture in. Michael doesn't get his picture in. Today, though, gentlemen, thank you very much. These windows never cease to do the business, do they?
No. There's plenty left.
There is plenty left. Thank you very much, Andy, Michael, Darmesh. As I say, we've got the international version tomorrow. I'm not going to go Arrivederci or, that. See you tomorrow.